Zimbabwe, land of beauty, land of struggle, a nation yearning for change yet haunted by its past. Emerson Mnangagwa, once hailed as a beacon of hope, now seems to be following in the footsteps of his predecessor, Robert Mugabe. The promise of a new dawn has faded, replaced by a familiar shadow, the suppression of dissent. Recently, Mnangagwa's government unleashed a new weapon against its critics, Section 164B of the Cyber and Data Protection Act. This vaguely worded law has sent chills down the spines of many Zimbabweans, especially those who dare to raise their voices online. Is this the beginning of a new wave of censorship in Zimbabwe? Many Zimbabweans remember the days of Mugabe's iron-fisted rule, where speaking out could cost you your freedom, or even your life. Now, with the stroke of a pen, Mnangagwa seems to be tightening his grip on power, using the law to silence those who challenge him. The question is, will the world stand by and watch? So what exactly does Section 164B say? Well, that's part of the problem. The law is broad, leaving it open to interpretation and abuse. In a nutshell, it criminalizes the spread of false information online that could harm public interest or incite violence. Sounds reasonable, right? Except who decides what's false? Who determines what constitutes public interest? With a judiciary widely seen as loyal to the ruling party, there are fears this law will be used as a blunt instrument to silence any form of criticism against the government. Imagine this. You post on Facebook about the government's failure to address the economic crisis. Suddenly you're facing charges under Section 164B. The message is clear: toe the line or face the consequences. To understand the impact of this law, we need to look at the bigger picture. Zimbabwe is a nation grappling with a multitude of challenges. The economy is in tatters, inflation is rampant, unemployment is sky high, basic necessities are out of reach for many. In this climate of despair, people are angry, they are frustrated, and they are turning to social media to vent their frustrations, to organize, to demand better from their leaders. But with Section 164B hanging over their heads, many are now afraid to speak out. The government argues that the law is necessary to combat misinformation and maintain order, but critics see it as a cynical ploy to stifle dissent and maintain their grip on power. When people are struggling to put food on the table, the last thing they need is another reason to stay silent. Section 4. A muzzle on the people. International outrage grows. The international community has not remained silent. Human rights groups have condemned Section 164B, calling it a blatant attack on freedom of expression. The United Nations has expressed concern, urging the Zimbabwean government to respect fundamental freedoms. But will these pleas fall on deaf ears? Mnangagwa's government has shown little tolerance for criticism, both from within and outside the country. Journalists, activists, and opposition figures have all faced harassment and intimidation. The world is watching Zimbabwe. The international community is watching. The hope is that Mnangagwa will choose the path of dialogue and respect for human rights. The fear is that he will continue down the path of repression, further isolating his country and deepening the suffering of his people. Section 5. Zimbabwe's future. Can freedom survive? The situation in Zimbabwe is a stark reminder that the fight for freedom and democracy is never truly over. It's a fight that requires constant vigilance, both from within and outside a country's borders. Zimbabwe stands at a crossroads. Will it embrace a future where freedom of expression is respected, where dissent is tolerated, and where the government is accountable to its people? Or will it slip back into the shadows of authoritarian rule, where fear and silence prevail? The answer lies in the hands of the Zimbabwean people. It lies in the courage of those who dare to speak truth to power, those who refuse to be silenced. And it lies in the solidarity of the international community, in our willingness to stand with those who fight for a better future for Zimbabwe.